Hi, thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. I'm Reverend MeeLing, also known as Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle, a few other names over the years. That being said, I am now officially in New Mexico while going to Washington State to pick up my two biggest pieces from my Medal of Honor art project. And so I am going to discuss this particular issue that happened many years ago. This is before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, actually a few situations that had occurred. So there was this individual I knew who lived in Manalapan, New Jersey, and his name is Rob Castle, and we did not get along. Like, he wanted to date me, I wasn't interested in him. Sensei Bob, the owner of the Taekwondo studio in Manalapan, New Jersey, very much saw how I didn't like him. I didn't like him at all. I didn't tolerate his attitude, and that annoyed him. And then because he was so spoiled, like there are those from Manalapan, New Jersey that have a specific personality, and then there are those who have certain traits of that particular personality. However, they're humble enough to know when to have that portion of their personality come forward in comparison. You know, like if they earn something and then they have that right to have that Manalapan-esque personality. There are those who understand exactly what I mean in regards to that area of New Jersey. For those who don't know, Manalapan, New Jersey, the houses on average start at like $500,000 back in the 1980s and 1990s. So, you know, the individuals that were accustomed to getting anything and everything mommy and daddy could buy. Whereas people in Marlboro and Freehold, it depended where you were. By all accounts, I was considered in a lower area because of where I lived, where I grew up. And despite being around people who had that type of parents, who had that type of money, my biological parents didn't necessarily have that equivalent of extra spending cash. And so, hey, cool. However, Rob Castle was essentially one of those stereotypical Manalapan individuals from New Jersey who all he had to do was complain to his mom and dad, and he would essentially get what he wanted. However, he could only complain to his mom and dad so much about materialistic things. As far as people, it wasn't the same. And seeing how my biological father was the only registered graduate from the School of Bolivar in more than a tri-county area, in the tri-state area. And he could work on not just Bolivars, also, you know, Rolexes, Movados, Seikos, the really expensive ones, so on and so forth, and the warranty remain, and the value not depreciate. you know, there was that issue in that regard when it came to Rob Castle's temper tantrums. And so while he was accustomed to essentially getting any female he wanted in Manalapan to a degree, Marlborough and Freehold were not the same. And number one, I wasn't allowed to date until after I turned 16. Number two, my biological parents would have seen him and been like, no, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, my biological father absolutely had pure disdain for that boy. And so I'm not saying that I would have gone along with every single thing that my biological father would have said. However, I also didn't need him to tell me that he was a piece of trash as far as Rob Castle was concerned. I figured that out all by myself, and upon the first meeting. And so it was one of those, he tried at first doing that typical, oh hey, and no. And then he tried the, I'm gonna annoy you until you like me, and no. And then he tried the, I'm gonna absolutely be the biggest pain in the ass until you like me, and that didn't work at all whatsoever. So then it turned into there was this thing he started doing where he would go, whatever, anytime I spoke. And it didn't matter whether I was actually speaking to him or speaking with anybody else. And it really annoyed him because I actually had a crush on a guy named Michael that was in the same Taekwondo school. He was actually a black belt who, I think he was earning his second degree when I had started at the Taekwondo school. And he played flute on top of which, and I played flute and was learning piccolo as well. So it was one of those, oh, he's so cute. I don't really like the fact that he has long hair, but that's okay. You know, we could speak, we could talk. And he was a senior in high school, whereas, you know, I was like in 8th grade, so I definitely wasn't allowed to date him at the time. Nonetheless, Rob Castle did not like that. And so it got to the point where Sensei Bob actually had to separate us. Like, absolutely keep us separated. Because he could see that I was doing everything I possibly could to not obliterate Rob Castle. So then there was the point where I had earned my green belt, and I had gone through the ranks extremely quickly. It actually, over time, had caught the attention, unbeknownst to me until later, Michael, because he didn't like usually pay attention to a bunch of stuff, and then like I went up the ranks real quick, and it was one of those, oh, she's taking this seriously. It's like, yeah, I'm not playing around. And so I went to the competition for Taekwondo. First competition, I got 2nd place in sparring and 3rd place in form. I'm fairly certain that's what I got. Or I got 3rd place in sparring and 2nd place in form, but I think it's the 2nd place in sparring. That was the first competition I went to. And, you know, I went up against only females because it was, you know, it was a co-ed competition. However, females sparred females and males sparred males, and went against in that regard for that form. And I went against no lower ranking than brown belts with black stripes and red belts with black stripes for both sparring as well as form, obviously. And so I didn't really make a big deal out of it, not because I wasn't proud of myself, just one of those, well, it was just one competition, you know, and those who know martial arts, you don't get cocky about that, because, you know, there's always somebody smarter, faster, etc., etc., etc. And so it was one of those, well, you know, do my thing and, you know, just keep going. Well, it got to the point where Sensei Bob continuously had to absolutely keep us separated, because Rob Castle was just pushing that limit repeatedly and not wanting to take, you know, no for an answer. And so it got so bad that when I had earned my green belt and I had gone to green belt with a green belt with a couple of tapes, just before getting my green belt with a black stripe, essentially I was banned from ever sparring Rob Castle if Sensei Bob was there. And because I didn't say anything, and because Sensei Bob didn't, you know, make a big to-do out of me placing, realistically, very few individuals actually knew that I had gone to the competition. Michael knew, because Michael had gone to the competition. And so, you know, then there was a point where there was a substitute teacher, and I got to spar Rob Castle, and I broke his cup. It was fantastic. Well, by that time, I started going to St. John Vianney High School. And St. John Vianney High School in New Jersey, you had people from all different areas, because it was is in Holmdel, New Jersey. And whatchamacallit, I don't know if I can go that route. Okay. So the people that went to St. John Vianney High School in Holmdel, New Jersey, they were from all areas. They they grew up or were living in both, you know, Marlboro, Manalapan, Freehold, Holmdel, you know, people as far as, well, basically like a 30-mile square foot, not that New Jersey's really that big, but like a fairly large vicinity that, you know, if you got into the school, you got into the school and you went. And so I went, and one particular group of females that I got to know, which I was still at the time in Taekwondo, and they grew up in Manalapan, so they knew Rob Castle. And after, I think it was whatever year the Titanic movie came out, is when Tony Ann Farinella and then her friend Jennifer, and then a few other people, and I wound up going to see Titanic, although I wanted to go see Biodome. That's what I was under the impression we were going to go see. We didn't see Biodome, we wound up seeing Titanic. And nothing against the guys who did the Titanic movie. However, I'm sure that there is a full understanding that there is a big difference between Biodome and Titanic. And so, under the impression that we're going to go see Biodome, and then, oh, I bought you a ticket, and we're going to go see the Titanic movie.
Use any lane to turn right onto US 60 West, US 84 West.
You know, I wasn't happy. Needless to say.
Continue on US 60 West.
And so,
miles.
I went to the movie. I dealt with it. I wasn't happy about it at all. And then, because it was essentially Jennifer's idea to do the switch in that movie aspect, because Tony Ann Farinella and I had been the ones that had been like, yeah, let's definitely do the biodome, because, and then, oh no, Jennifer wants to see Titanic, and, whatever. Anyway, later, Jennifer wound up acknowledging that she knew Rob Castle. She actually asked me about it. And I was like, yeah, I know that guy. I really don't like him. She was like, oh, he's like a really good friend of mine. I'm like, oh, we're not going to get along if he's a really good friend of yours, which is realistic. And so, where I got along with Tony Ann Farinella up until a certain point, Jennifer and I did not get along. She would do little things very similar to the aspects of Rob Castle, and had that stereotypical, really like heavy-duty Manalapan-esque aspect. Like, she actually cried when she found out her parents were going to buy her a brand new BMW when she got her license, when she was going to go get her license. She didn't get it at the time I was there, but she was going to go get her license, and she cried because she found out her parents were going to buy her a brand new BMW, and she didn't want a brand new BMW. So you can see, for those who know my personality, that didn't go over so well. And so when I found that out, and she was just so upset and so distraught, it's like, so your parents are actually going to buy you a car? I have a feeling I'm going to have to buy my own car, which I did later. Nonetheless, she cried when she found out that was the car that they were going to get her. It's like, oh, so they're going to buy you a brand new car? You're going to cry, though. Those who know certain types of individuals, you know what I'm talking about in that regard. So she would bring up Rob Castle every now and then. It was one of those, yeah, we don't get along. Like, we don't get along. And then she found out that I had broken his cup. And she was like, I am so angry with you. And I was like, I don't really care. Your friend should have left me alone. And now he does. So, but now there's you. And she was like, I'm gonna show you, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but you're not strong enough to come at me yourself. You're not. And so, on the bus ride home one day, Tony Ann Farinella was like, Jennifer told me that you were flirting with my boyfriend. No, I was not flirting with your boyfriend. No. She told me she saw people who have been in high school, you know what I'm talking about in that regard. And it's like, no. And then the fact that I couldn't date at that time either, it's like, I can't do anything in that regard. She was like, well, Jennifer told me this and Jennifer told me that. It's like, yeah, well, Jennifer's a dumbass, and Jennifer's a spoiled brat, and Jennifer needs to keep her nose on her side of the fence. Otherwise, what she thinks is New Jersey is she's going to be educated. She's going to be educated from like how that goes. And so, Tony Ann Farinella, she wound up pushing and then actually physically pushing me. And then 3 pushes later, the following Monday at school, everybody was in different casts. And I don't mean acting. I mean, they had different casts. And I didn't even know that I had been jumped by 5 different people, one of the 5 being a male that jumped me. And all I had was a ripped shirt. Again, I didn't go around bragging that I had gotten the placement in Taekwondo. I didn't go around around, hey, you know, da 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 da. I actually got pulled out of Taekwondo once I had gotten my green belt with a black stripe and my second or third tape. That was when Mike was like, you cannot be in Taekwondo anymore. And it was like, why not? I want to get my black belt. Like, I'm going to get my black belt masters. And he's like, yeah, no, you're not. Why not? And he's like, because you have to register your hands. What? I have to what? To register my hands? Yeah, in the state of New Jersey, you have to register your hands as deadly weapons, and then you have to go and like give a warning and all this stuff. And I looked at him and I was like, you're kidding me. He's like, no, because Mike, my biological father, is a 3rd degree black belt. So in the state of New Jersey, he had to, if he had to get into a fight, he had to give that warning. And so, you know, and he was taught by a Korean master who had immigrated to the United States of America. He didn't learn from an Americanized Korean master. He learned, or Americanized black belt Taekwondo master. He learned Taekwondo from a Korean master who had immigrated to the United States of America from Korea. That's where he learned his Taekwondo. And so he had to legally register his hands as lethal weapons. And I was like, and so because I was going so quickly up the ranks, those who have known about my scuba diving, you could see certain aspects in that as far as my studying and my classes and certifications. When I was younger, I moved faster. And so, because it was pre-head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, so, you know, a lot faster by technicalities. And so I went, I think by the time I had earned my green belt with a black stripe, I had only been in Taekwondo for just about a year. That's how fast I moved. And so when it came to the Taekwondo competition, you know, I think I was just under a year that I had been in Taekwondo, and I had practiced a lot. And so practiced enough to get 2nd or 3rd place in sparring and 2nd or 3rd place in form against, you know, brown and red belts. And those are the only 2 belts that are just below black belt. And so, that being said, you know, after that particular situation, that would be when I was pulled from Taekwondo. Mike was like, yeah, no, nope. After that, and after, you know, I had defended myself against 5 teenagers, and all of them apparently weighed, I think the lightest one was like 150, 160 pounds, and I was barely 100 pounds at the time. And so, you know, Jennifer didn't like that. I actually was uninvited to Tony Ann's Sweet 16 because of that fight that Jennifer actually had started. Because if Jennifer didn't run her mouth to Tony Ann, I would have never gotten into a fight with her, Michelle, Teresa, Marissa, and then Nick Palazzolo. And Nick Palazzolo did not take very kindly to the fact that he got me mad. And all of them grew up in Manalapan. So not only did all of those guys grow up in Manalapan, and then Tony Ann realistically was the only one who had a more mellow, like laid back sort of personality in that regard. She wasn't nearly as Manalapan-esque as the others. And so even though Jennifer did not go on the same bus ride because she lived in a further away area of Manalapan. She had started that fight because she kept annoying, I don't want to say annoying Tony Ann, but she kept going in Tony Ann's ear and just, oh, she's flirting with your boyfriend. No, I'm not. I never flirted with him. That's the thing. I never flirted with him. I had especially at that time, I had a crush on Michael in Taekwondo, and I am the way I am, so it was one of those, I'm not looking at any other guys except for that one, and so that was it. And not that I was even able to date Michael because of that other set of aspects where I was under 16 and my biological parents were the way they were, are the way they are. So it was just one of those not a feasibility. And Tony Ann's boyfriend, I wasn't interested in him. I was interested in him as a friend. He was a really nice guy to speak with. But other than that, that was the end of it. And so, since, what was it, Nick Palazzolo had said that he was going to make a website about me at the time. He said he was going to make a website about how my biological mother is overweight. It's like, okay, if that's what you think, okay. And then he wound up saying, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and I wasn't threatened in that regard because it was one of those, you do know that I could still beat you up. And Nick Palazzolo was like, that's beside the point. And it's like, no, that is the point. That is specifically the point. If I have to defend myself, you best come at me face to face. Don't be stupid. Don't do that, because you don't want that to occur, because then, whether you believe certain things or not, I know how to handle other aspects, and it's safer if you don't do stupid things such as that. And he went on this little temper tantrum tirade, and it was one of those, don't push me, because you saw what happened. You have the medical records to prove that. And don't be dumb. Don't be stupid. Do not do that. It will not be safe for you. And so, and I have to do a lot to keep my temper under control. I don't think you understand. And that was before my headaches and migraines. And the individuals at St. John Vianney High School had no idea where I wound up walking around. They only knew, that I went to St. John Vianney High School. They had no idea that I grew up walking around where I did when Mike had business in the 5 boroughs and Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and stuff like that. And so they didn't know that because it was none of their business. And so it wasn't that I was secretive. It was none of their business at all. And literally and figuratively, because it was literally Mike's business, not mine. I just, was brought along. And so it was one of those, looking back now on the 8th of June in 2020, and, obviously after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, then there are those aspects. And, I would guesstimate if there were any issues hypothetically having to do with those 5 individuals and the 6th one being Jennifer. Well, I would guesstimate that they were not adult enough to come say hi and reintroduce themselves as themselves to me in person. And I warned them back in New Jersey, you don't want me to be angry, whether you believe it or not. So, if they continued on after I moved on, well, I don't recommend coming to say hi now, obviously. Yeah, especially if there were problems caused to my Medal of Honor art project, though especially if there were any problems in reference to my son and my daughter because of those individuals. And so it would be better for them to stop and not be anywhere near me. Whether they'd like to stop on their own or not is not my problem. It's just safer for a whole bunch of individuals. Again, whether you believe certain things or not. And since, scuba diving, where I landed and surfaced from 3 different areas of the ocean, it'll be safer by a lot. But then it would also show certain aspects of being ungrateful or ungrateful because of that whole aspect of, look at the prior YouTube official videos of mine, and you'll know what I mean in that regard. Because, that day could have been so much worse. Thankfully, it was not. I'm glad I spoke with who I spoke with. However, justice in that regard, because then that would be stalking since the 1990s, and it's 2020.